So hi together. I'm happy to be here on the Shops First Try with Mary, like Mary Poppins, and Marie, like the Virgin Marie. And yeah, since we don't have so many female splitboarders, it's pretty cool to talk to those women. And yeah, it would be great to tell us a little bit about your emotions while splitboarding, what you think, how you do your safety preparation, and all that. Just
Yeah.
start and go for it.
Sweet. I guess I've been splitboarding for about 8 years. So I went from knowing absolutely nothing and then started going out there with people who got me into it and taught me a little bit. And it's been a wonderful experience for me because a lot of the access back in BC is with snowmobiles and helicopters or on the resort, and that's really nice. But splitboarding gave me such a new and fun, different approach where you can not only take the time to look at your line more and assess the conditions as you go up, but also slow down the whole pace and appreciate your surroundings a lot more. And that's something I really appreciate and connects you with nature even more. And yeah, I think it's great for your health physically and mentally. And I don't know, I just love to earn my turns personally.
Okay, great.
So I've been splitboarding for 4 years, and it is totally foreign to me. I grew up on the East Coast, same as Marie, but she's been on the West Coast longer than me in North America. And the splitboarding actually has made it to the East Coast, but not when I was a kid growing up, so I didn't even know what it was. I'd never heard of it. I knew nothing about it. And it was pretty intimidating for me at first, for sure, because I was just never used to going uphill.
Yeah.
So that was like actually quite scary.
Yeah.
It still is scary for me. And then once I'm down, it's like I feel normal again. But yeah, going uphill
As
is,
soon as you strap in,
Oh, yeah.
then you feel
yeah,
like
great.
at home.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's still scary for me. But yeah, I love it. I think it's great. Like Marie said, it definitely slows things down, and you get to look at the terrain, and you get to feel the terrain too. It's really nice to like be always checking the snow with your poles as you're going up, looking for layers as the aspect changes, or maybe you'll feel a lump underneath you, or whatever it might be. You're on the snow. You know, you're not just getting dropped off from a helicopter or riding a chairlift or snowmobiling, or you're just like way more connected. But yeah, I'm still getting over the fear of traveling uphill.
The fear.
It's so scary.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, I guess, yeah, it is different.
On
It is-
steep pitch, or maybe if it's a skin track that's already been in and then it's all icy everywhere else. Like I slid down before an open face that had a icy crest layer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess it happens.
And I'm not used to being on skis. I'm on
Yeah.
skis. It's like the craziest thing ever. And my legs are short, so when I try to do like the switchback,
Yeah,
and you have to lean back, like it's
counterintuitive at
Yeah.
first.
It's entirely counterintuitive. I'm going uphill on skis, and I have to lean back.
Yeah.
Crazy.
But once you're into it, I think it's just like it's quite amazing. Like once you get in the rhythm, like how far you can go too. At first you're like, oh, it's so much work, and people who don't splitboard always think like, no way, I hate hiking, or like it's way too much effort. And then after a few days of getting into it, you're like, okay, I'm feeling way more in shape in only a few days, and you can actually go so far. And I think I love that, and it makes you look at the mountain differently too. Look for different things. And you reduce your footprint too, which is also nice to not be always on a snowmobile or heling or on the resort. Obviously, it's hard to avoid it at all times, but it's nice to sometimes just be more foot powered for sure.
Yeah, cool. And if you think about, well, I mean, in our region, like in the European region, there are just very few female splitboarders.
Yeah.
And what would you recommend if a woman wants to start splitboarding? I mean, Mary told her that she's kind of scared or intimidated, and I think there are several women who are
Yeah.
more intimidated in trying it.
Yeah.
And yeah, what would you both recommend?
I think that there's a lot of courses now. I think if you can either find a course near you that will bring you to people who can teach you properly, like the basic techniques to start, not only about splitboarding itself and how to like take care of your equipment and how to put it together, but also about safety in the mountains. So they're also important, and I think unless you have somebody really close to you that you trust, like a guru or a mentor that really knows what they're doing, you should definitely take a course or find a source of information that can get you out there safely.
Okay.
And it will just make your experience so much better.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like the less that you have to think about, the more you can just be focused on what you're doing and enjoy it, and also have less stress or anxiety, maybe.
Yeah.
And yeah, so for me, getting into backcountry and getting into splitboarding and it all being so new, like having the avalanche courses from professionals under my belt was really boosted my confidence, because then I'm not thinking about that when I'm out there so much. I'm feeling confident and sure of my decisions and everything. And then yeah, definitely having some mentors, because I had no idea what I was doing, you know.
Okay. And regarding, I mean, you both are snowboard professionals. And what about if there's this decision with filming? There is a phase which is a little bit critical, and actually you have to decide if you ride it or you keep the decision at the guide who says, yeah, can be good but can be dangerous as well. Do you rely completely on the guide, or do you take your own decisions? Or what about the sponsor? If the big sponsor is there and he wants you to see riding,
Yeah, this
because
is
there's the whole team now, and not tomorrow when the conditions are less critical. How do you
Yeah.
deal with this pressure?
I think that's a really good question when you start pushing yourself in the backcountry and like dealing with these kind of pressure from either like the conditions or your sponsors or your film crew. And I think that is probably the biggest factor in avalanche safety, to know what you're comfortable with. And I would say that at first, when I first got out in the backcountry, all my trust was in my crew. Like I didn't know anything, so it was all about the guide if there was a guide, but often there was no guide, so you just trust everyone else. And I think that the more I know, the least I trust others and the more I trust myself. But you also want to take in consideration everybody's thoughts as well. But it's important to choose partners, I think, that have similar risk tolerance as you. And if you're not feeling something, that to really be vocal about it and surround yourself with a crew that is welcoming of your opinions and respectful in that. Because I've been in situations where you're like not feeling it, but people just kind of like don't really respect your opinion and they're like trying to push you in a certain direction. And it's been really rare. I've been surrounded by really good people.
Yeah, I remember one of the, I don't remember the name, one of the, maybe 3 years or 4 years ago, the girl who won the freeride world competition.
Yeah.
And a few days afterwards, she just got buried by an avalanche.
That was so sad. In South America.
Yeah, it was really sad.
Yeah.
And did you take something out of it regarding your safety patterns or
Always.
stuff like that?
Always. I think it's an everyday challenge to when you're out there and you're making decisions every day and many times a day. I'm like, even when you're making your route uphill, you're like, okay, where do I go? What do you guys think? And sometimes you would be the least experienced, and sometimes you're the most experienced where everyone else trusts you. So I don't know. I think it's I'm always learning in the mountains, and I think that I'm still at the very bottom of my learning curve. I think you never stop learning. Even the best mountaineers, they can't predict everything, and there's so many accidents. So I think for me, I really like to stay at the highest caution scale. I'd rather take less risk and be in the mountains for longer than just trying to push myself too hard and sometimes I try to limit the chances for the wrong decisions. What about you?
I agree with everything that Marie said. Just a couple things that I would add. We are mostly self-guided the majority of the time.
Yeah.
And so with that, it's you and your group. And I think in my experience that preparation is like everything. So like just knowing the snowpack wherever you're going, if it's your home or if it's somewhere else, like doing your due diligence to learn the snowpack and prepare for that, and then having your crew prepared for worst case scenarios, and also having a routine preparation like with your daily stuff. And it can seem silly, and you take these avalanche courses and they're all writing in their notebooks, and most of the time I don't do it when I'm not in the course, but and I don't think it's particularly needs to happen every day but it helps. And as like just the little things like always checking each other's beacons and always having a plan and always having and a second plan and a third plan and being okay with it, and like with that comes open communication.
Yeah.
And so like always having the line of communication open, and like being intuitive and being aware of your crew, and like looking around and like sensing if somebody is being quiet, and like ask them why they're being quiet, like what do you have to say. And obviously there is like some sort of hierarchy that's formed out there, which I think is necessary as far as like experience and skills, but keeping it equal playing field as well. And it's like if one person doesn't feel comfortable, everyone has to be okay with it around.
Yeah. Have you been in critical situations already?
Yeah, and probably a lot more than I'm even ignorant to all the time, I'm sure. But yeah, I've definitely experienced avalanches in front of me and maybe on the face next to me, and I've never had to do a burial or anything or a retrieval. I've never been buried. I've been carried by the snow.
Good.
Yeah.
What about you? Marie?
Yeah, same. I haven't had like really bad incidents in the mountain, thank goodness. But I've seen a lot of scary situations over the years, and a lot of times it's negligence of just better, but people like you get comfortable and you
Kind of group dynamics, maybe.
I think it's important for me when I'm splitboarding. I won't take as much risk as if I'm, let's say, by snowmobile access or on the resort or cat skiing, where you really have to address the fact that if something happens, if somebody gets hurt, where am I? How long will it take to get rescued? What kind of first aid do we have? I think it's really important to adjust your risk tolerance to where you are, your tools, your crew, and how fast you can access rescue.
And how prepared you are. And realizing the level of preparedness that you need. And knowing, where you'll have phone service or where you won't have phone service, and how your satellite phone works, and who you're going to call, and how to read your coordinates, and telling people where you go, and how many nights will you stay out, and how much food do you have to survive.
Good, go on.
Yeah. All the things. Who knows how to do CPR? Who does it? Who's got a splint? All the things.
Yeah, great.
Because, I'm scared all the time in the backcountry, and many times I push through.
Yeah.
I don't always back down, but if I go for it when I know there's a risk, I usually have assessed, okay, if something happens, I'm aware of these things, and I accept the risk. And it's manageable.
Yeah, and I would say too, it's just it changes every day, with the conditions and the weather and your mode of transportation and where you are and how close you are to help, essentially.
Yeah.
And the ability level of your group too.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's if you're with a group of beginners, obviously you're gonna tone it down.
How many times does it happen if you're around with your crew or filming that you say no? Let's turn around.
That hasn't happened very often for me.
Oh, it happens all the time. Maybe not turn around. For example, I was just filming in the backcountry.
For example, there's missing 100 or 200 altimeters to reach the summit, and there's some critical issues, that it might be not so stable as we thought before, and then you say, okay, let's skip it, or
Oh, all the
you
time.
push through.
All the time. Like, I mean, I'm not personally a summit kind of person, but in what we do, it's maybe more about like certain lines and like you get on top of something and it's not the way you thought. It doesn't look like you thought. It looks gnarlier. And then I just did that last week. I was like, you know what, guys? I don't feel it. Just went around it. And yeah, sorry. You have to be comfortable doing that for sure, because then that's when bad things happen. If you can't say no.
Yeah. So thank you very much,
Thank you.
Mary and Mary.
Yeah, that was awesome.